Welcome back. The overbearing dependence on governments for the provision of social services for the people is seen in some quarters as a detriment to development in Nigeria. That's the argument put forth by speakers at a session on public-private partnership in Lagos. Renowned economist Professor Pt.4 says absence of institutional framework for resource management and leadership in discipline are responsible for the continued failure of the public-private partnership initiative.
As Nigeria's population grows on a daily basis, the need for government to respond to this growth becomes apparent, going by continuous overstretch of available infrastructure. Energy, good roads and an efficient transport system are some of the infrastructure needed to match population growth. The question of whether government alone can provide the needed resources forms the basis of the 6th annual public lecture of the Chartered Accountants in the Lagos State Public Service. The purpose is to appraise how public-private partnership can stimulate economic development. The lead speaker, Professor Pt.4, provided an idealistic approach to why public-private partnership is a necessary tool for economic development in the country. He argued that the absence of institutional framework to manage resources and leadership failure are some of the factors mitigating against the public-private partnership initiatives in the country.
Leadership is about setting the tone of how roads facilitate progress. If you build a road, you need a maintenance agreement. You need to do X, Y, Z. That's what leadership does. Set the tone of culture and it makes for progress.
He also believes that the build, operate and own structure is one of several models that could be applied to make private-public partnership more effective.
Build, operate and transfer models where the capital is private, comes from the private sector, builds up this, and after a certain number of years, it's transferred to government.
More importantly is the need to build institutions. And that is one thing we are spending a lot of money on, to develop strong democratic institutions. When you have that one in the state, that is in Nigeria as a whole, or Lagos in particular, you eliminate the risk of, personified or personalized politics or personalized deliverance, that, this investment will only be there because this particular governor is in power. No.
From the thoughts provided by these experts, synergy between the public and private sector in the provision of goods and services should be seen as a mutual responsibility.
It's time now for sports news. Here's Ayotunde Balogun.
Seven wrestlers consisting of 5 women and 2 men will represent Nigeria at this year's Olympics. The wrestlers are Commonwealth champion Odwayo Adekuroye, Mercy Genesis, Aminat Adeni, Blessing Oburududu and Anna Reuben. Others are Amas Daniel and Soso Tamara. President of the Nigeria Wrestling Federation, Daniel Igali, says that the wrestlers are motivated to win medals for the country at the Games. The members of the inaugural Olympic refugee team are already in Brazil and are excited to compete at next month's Summer Olympics. The team includes 5 athletes from South Sudan, 2 from Syria, 2 from Democratic Republic of Congo and 1 from Ethiopia. They will compete in swimming, judo and athletics. The International Olympic Committee introduced the team to draw global attention to the plight of refugees around the world.
Great feeling because all of them have the same strong feeling about never give up, and they did a lot to reach here, and yeah, they have a lot of bad situations happened with them and with us, and we continued because we have dreams.
Meanwhile, the Executive Board of the International Olympic Committee are meeting in Rio de Janeiro to discuss final preparations for the Games. Top of the agenda is security following recent attacks in France and Germany. They are also holding conversations about the Zika virus with Brazil's Sports Minister Leonardo Picciani, reiterating that it will not pose a health threat during the Games. South America's first Olympics kicks off on August the 5th. And Novak Djokovic is through to the Rogers Cup semi-finals following the straight sets victory over Thomas Berdych. The world number 1 beat his Czech rival 7-6, 6-4 in front of a packed centre court at the Aviva Centre in Toronto. Djokovic will next face Frenchman Gael Monfils, who beat Canada's Milos Raonic 6-4, 6-4.
Game, set a match, Djokovic. 2-6-0.
Nico Rosberg has claimed pole position for Sunday's German Grand Prix. The 31-year-old was restricted to just a single-timed lap in qualifying 3 after an electronics issue on his first run meant he had to abort his opening attempt. Meanwhile, championship leader Lewis Hamilton will start the race alongside his teammate on the front row after missing out on pole by a tenth of a second following a mistake on his final flying lap. Daniel Ricciardo increased his qualifying lead over Max Verstappen to 7-1 by securing third ahead of his Red Bull teammate. And that's a wrap on sports news. I'm Ayotunde Balogun. The news at 10 continues shortly.
According to Syrian state media, dozens of families have left besieged in areas of the city of Aleppo along a humanitarian corridor. Civilians were said to have boarded buses where they were taken to temporary shelters. Some rebels had also surrendered to government forces. This development comes after Russia, an ally of the Syrian government, announced on Thursday that 4 exit corridors will be opened in Aleppo for civilians and rebels. The move has been welcomed cautiously by the UN, the US and some aid agencies. That's because the US has suggested that the plan may be an attempt to force the evacuation of civilians and the surrender of rebel groups in the city. The UN Security Council has authorized the deployment of a UN police force to Burundi to try to curb violence and human rights abuses in the country. More than 400 people have been killed in unrest since President Pierre Nkurunziza said he would run for a third term in office last April. And the main news again. Former Vice President of Nigeria, Atiku Abubakar, today restated his call for the restructuring of Nigeria to ensure unity and end agitations by various ethnic groups in the country. At a conference in Kaduna in honor of the late military governor of the northern region, General Hassan Usman Katsina, the former number 2 citizen said Nigeria remains a work in progress. Also today, the former head of interim national government condemned the lack of policy continuity in government by Nigeria's successive administrations. Also, controversy has trailed alleged shutting of the House Appropriation Committee office over the 2016 budget padding scandal by the Department of State Services. This came as the former chairman of the committee, Abdul Mumin Jibrin, is set to have petitioned the EFCC over the matter. That's News at 10 tonight. Thank you for watching. I am Amarachi Ubani. Good night.